right, hello and welcome to the first IoTeXperts webinar. That's a tough one to say. One of many to come in this bi-weekly series brought to you by the folks at IoTeX. My name is Robert Wolf. I'm the host, and I will be here every other week bringing you lots of really cool stuff about IoTeX and more particularly about IoTeX for developers. Each of these webinars will start with developer updates, followed by in-depth conversations about IoTeX and our growing developer ecosystem. Joined by featured experts like Simone here and many others, we'll discuss in-depth topics tailored for developers, showcase opportunities, explore resources, and bring new and exciting IoTeX developments to light. Each event will finish off with an audience Q&A. Of course, we will also be gathering questions from our office hours each week, bringing the good ones here to the show so that Simone can answer them on recording. Now, with no further ado, let's introduce our panelists here. So we have Simone Romano on the call. Simone, I think it's best, we've done this before in the office hours several times, but maybe if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, tell us what you do for IoTeX, what you do for fun. That seems like a good way to kickstart this.
For sure. Thank you, Robert. So yeah, my name is Simone. I'm responsible for the developers community growth at IoTeX. So with Robert, we are trying to manage our developer Discord at best that we can. I'm also doing like events for developers, technical panels here and there around the world. I've been lucky enough to go to the ETH Denver event and speak about IoTeX there, as well as to ETH Amsterdam. And recently, I've been in Amsterdam again for the Money 2020 in a panel speaking about IoTeX, what we are doing, about MachineFi and so on. Also working on some developer products internally, like the developer portal, doing some tutorials, documentation for developers. And now I would say the main focus here is to sort of extend this internal community developer team in IoTeX to the external community, try to make you guys part of this team and make it like a community developers champions team that's as big as the entire community, not only an internal team. So making community developers part of the process of creating tools and documentation and tutorial and participating as much as possible into the growth of the developers ecosystem. What else? Yeah, lately I'm playing around with some things that we are using to create some content for developers. One is some Arduino sketches that we are testing and also experimenting with some other stuff that I don't want to anticipate. That will be a topic for next events.
Excellent. Yeah. So Simone, I'd like to thank you very much, first of all, for the introduction. I'd like to remind everyone on all the attendees that if you do have questions, it looks like someone already posted one. I'll check that out in a minute. Post your questions in the Q&A section of the webinar, Zoom webinar area there. We will get to these by the end of the broadcast. So any questions you put there, leave them there and we'll definitely get to them. So Simone, you put together a slide deck for us. You have a substantial amount of updates. I know we've kind of been gathering these throughout the last few weeks of the office hours. For those who have been attending, maybe you kind of got some insight into these. But when you're ready, I guess we can kind of just dive right into that.
Yeah, sure. I just have a few slides as like a guide for me to speak about some things that are relevant for developers and make them like kind of an excuse for questions or for sparking a new discussion or something. So yeah, let's start with it. Let's see if I can make it work, first of all. So the first thing I want to talk about today is Ethereum compatibility. What we are doing here, because this is a main change that we made to the IoTeX protocol recently in the last 1.5 years, more or less. Actually, Ethereum compatibility has always been a thing, an important thing for IoTeX from the very initial preview of the IoTeX consensus back in 2018. The consensus was already integrating the native Ethereum EVM. So it's always been compatible with Ethereum smart contracts, but it was not compatible with the Ethereum API in terms of interaction between Ethereum tools, like for example, MetaMask or any other Ethereum client with the IoTeX blockchain. We had our own API that we still have, by the way. So what we did during the past year, in 2021, we created this Babel service that you see here in yellow, which was a standalone service that anybody could run, connected on one side to an IoTeX full node, configured as a gateway, as a blockchain gateway. And on the other side, you could have any Ethereum client, like an Ethereum wallet or a Web3.js library used in your specific application or a mobile application, whatever, to talk to this Babel service as if it was talking to an Ethereum node. But behind the scenes, this service was going to translate, to somehow wrap these Ethereum calls into IoTeX native transactions that were then sent to the IoTeX full node that would process it and then send back the reply to the blockchain client, making it transparent, right, to the Ethereum client. And this service also implemented both the Ethereum HTTPS API for doing any Ethereum call, and also the Ethereum WebSocket API for subscribing to blockchain events. So what we have been working on lately during the last months on these regards was to bring this Babel service inside the IoTeX full node. And that's because maybe for the everyday developer, this does not change much, because you will not see much change. Maybe only the URL, the endpoint will change for you. But for a node operator, or for those teams that also build the infrastructure as the gateway to the blockchain for their products, this is quite an interesting change, because they don't have to run two different services anymore, like the IoTeX full node and the Babel service. They will just be able to run an IoTeX full node, and this is natively exposing both the IoTeX native API and the Ethereum HTTPS API, and now this week also the Ethereum WebSocket API, so that any developer can just do without the Babel service. You just start an IoTeX full node, configure it as a gateway, and just talk to the node directly with any Ethereum client or wallet, right, or library, which also makes it more easy for those developers who do actually run an IoTeX node to interact with the IoTeX blockchain. These have some advantages to run your node and not to use the official endpoint for accessing the blockchain. One is that, of course, the official endpoint, because it's official, it's subject to attacks, right? So, and also it's sometimes, not sometimes, but it's like rate limited, of course, because it's publicly accessible. So also for limiting the attack surface, it's rate limited. So you may want to have more performances on this side. So you may want to run your node, and also having the blockchain node as close as possible to your devices, right? If the client is a device, makes the overall architecture more secure, right? Because you don't have to trust the node you are connecting to, because it's already in your local network, right? You don't have to connect to an external gateway and you're not sure who you are connecting to, or if there is some like man in the middle, right? And so now it's very, very easy to just run a node, an IoTeX node, and interact with any IoTeX, with any Ethereum client or Truffle or tool or developer tool or whatever. We already have it in the IoTeX, in the full node 1.8.1, which has been released on testnet. It's kind of baking on testnet now for 2 weeks. I think it's going very well, more than 2 weeks. It's going very well. Actually, you can also test it if you want. The URL is this one in red, ws.testnet.iotex.1. And this is the type of things that you can do with this WebSocket URL. Basically, you can subscribe to a smart contract address, set one or more topics, which are events for that contract, and just you will get like notified instantly, automatically, when that event is emitted on that specific smart contract. For example, if you want to update the front end or you want to take any action in your client. So you can do this now directly connecting to an IoTeX full node. Okay, so this is one thing. Another thing I wanted to talk about today, I think is very interesting and very relevant, and it's about giving some updates about MachineFi, what we mean by MachineFi for developers, and what's the role of Webstream in this MachineFi paradigm or pattern, and where we are, right, with the development. Webstream, former called TrueStream, it's now called Webstream. TrueStream was already taken. So here, yeah, I just used this slide to introduce this update, and it's about IoTeX being the fastest growing decentralized engine to jumpstart the machine economy and power billions of applications and machines at a scale for the people. What we mean here mostly is that IoTeX is not only a blockchain. Okay, so of course, the blockchain layer, the layer one is extremely important for developers, but it's going to act as a financial or trusted logic or trusted authorization layer into a bigger context, which is what MachineFi enables. And to explain a little bit better, I'm using this slide here, what is Webstream and where it fits into the IoTeX tech stack. So this is somehow representing how, I would say it's representing the MachineFi methodology, because MachineFi, when we say MachineFi, we say it's a methodology. It's kind of a pattern to follow when you want to jumpstart these machine economies. And as you see, the IoTeX blockchain is in the center here, where you have your like client dApps or like dApps, right? Applications, decentralized applications from third parties. Then you have like machines, you have developers, you have machine owners, and then you have Webstream in this design. So the way it works, it's basically you have like machines. Let's think of machines like new machines, like if they were built today with Web3 in mind. So you have machines that people can buy, and these machines are somehow registered in terms of identity on the IoTeX blockchain. They send some telemetry, and Webstream comes into play here as the receiver for telemetry. And the developers here, like the MachineFi developer in this case, will be in charge for building the dApp part of their application that makes use of data, as well as to program the Webstream virtual machine to run the IoT logic for the data. So there are like two entry points for a developer here. Doesn't have to be the same developer, by the way, as well as does not have to be necessarily the same entity that builds the machine here. Okay, so there is some sort of this like architecture also, this open architecture, this decentralized design also opens to composability and also decentralized the different entities, the different actors. You can have like machine builders that build machines that are compatible with this architecture, and that's what they do. That's what they monetize. Then there could be DApp developers that are interested into using data from these machines, and they only build a DApp, and then any machine owner can join that DApp, right? So it's not necessarily the machine builder that also designs the DApp that uses the machine data. And then, of course, there is the owner of the machine, who is the, let's say the final user that buys these devices or these machines. And we also have to manage the ownership of these machines. Who owns what machines? Because usually the owner is the one who benefits from the work that machines do in terms of token economy, right? That's run on the blockchain. Yeah.
Simone, real quick, because when we were talking about this in the office hour, the question came up, what is a machine? What are these machines that you're talking about? And also, I'd like to kind of add to this. These machines, after we define what these machines are, I'm guessing they have to be built with intent, right? You can't just grab a machine off the shelf and say, oh yeah, this camera from Google, now all of a sudden it's a MachineFi machine. Like, these machines are built with intent, right? So let's first talk about, I guess, what are the machines that you're talking about?
Yeah, machine in this case stands for, I would say, I don't know how this translate exactly from the English language, but to me this means like automatic, something that's automatic, right? Something that can be programmed. So it can be a machine that's as small as a sensor that has some programming capability to as big as an entire smart city that is made of different devices and machines, right? So it's a concept, in this case, the machine. It's something that can be programmed and can generate some data. So from the smallest sensor that has some programmable capability to an actual autonomous car, or to any other device that can make a smart city to work automatically or autonomously, to any health device or personal device, or even, let's say, could be a smartphone if it's itself built in a specific way. So, but it can also be something that's running into a factory, into the industrial environment. Could be a robot, could be an automatic machine, right? So yeah, that's usually what we mean for machine. It's something that is capable of generating telemetry autonomously. This telemetry is usually, it must be not anything, but usually it's telemetry that is useful to take decisions, and so it's something that it has value somehow.
And so this is, though, now that you've addressed machine, anything that generates data. So now that you've addressed that, when we're talking about the machines that go into this flow diagram, these are machines built with the intent of participating in this system, right? You can't just grab a machine off the shelf and just say, okay, I want, right? So these are built with intent.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is actually where all the complexity is. As you see in this diagram, the machine enters this like Web3 space through WebStream. So that's the only entry point for machines. So this means that a machine should be somehow designed for WebStream, right? That's something that is intuitive. But what does this mean? It means that somehow the firmware and the hardware of the machine must have some capabilities, some like features. Now, of course, as you say, it's not that you can take any machine and make it work, but that's what we have to do, because you cannot expect machine builders to turn to Web3 tomorrow and start building new devices tomorrow. They will, of course. So of course, we have the design for this, but also we have to include legacy devices and legacy IoT applications in this design to allow the migration, the like Web3 digitalization to like progress from legacy devices to new devices as seamlessly as possible. And this is all inside Web3. So I'll take this opportunity to explain this, right? Webstream is a complex architecture here, and that's exactly one reason is exactly what you pointed out, right? We have legacy machines, legacy devices that today are built on Web2 IoT architectures based on Web2. So you have these devices, they don't have any secure element inside, they don't have any secure identity, right? They send data to these IoT clouds hosted on, I don't know, AWS, Google platform, or any other centralized server that provides IoT cloud services. And then this services provides an API, and then usually there is a mobile application or anyway, any other sort of a front end that fetch data from this API and makes it available to device owners to use, maybe to get this data, to see this data, as well as maybe to control their devices through the application or through the front end, right? That's how IoT is built today. And so WebStream should also somehow allow this architecture to get on board and make use of Web3 functionalities. We actually have a design, some sort of patterns to explain how Web2 based IoT applications can migrate into this design. Of course, with some limitations, right? Because it's not been designed for a Web3 or for decentralization, but still it's possible to onboard these legacy designs into this new Web3 architecture. And then there are machines that are new machines that can be designed with Web3 in mind. For example, Pebble Tracker. Pebble Tracker is an example that shows how to design a device that's a Web3 device, not a Web2 device. It's a Web3 device, so it has some specific features on the hardware level, and it has some specific features on the firmware level, and it's capable to talk directly to WebStream and then enter this flow. And then here we have to talk about where we are with WebStream, I would say. So I think, first of all, this has been announced some time ago. This has been announced some time ago, I think past year, at some time past year. And basically, we have not sent so many updates to developers about it. So I can say that we had several internal releases for WebStream that we are also using it for powering Pebble Tracker at this moment. And that this design for WebStream is really complex because there is not only the issue of legacy devices, but also all the IoT related issues, right? Connected to privacy of data, to security of data, as well as to those companies that want to stay centralized and those ones that want to go decentralized. So there are concepts like zero knowledge proofs inside here, or like confidential computing on encrypted data, and some like trust roles between the different entities that have to be managed, right? So what we are doing, we are working, so this WebStream architecture is going to be like a set of different architectures. And eventually it's going to be like a set of subnets, each one with a different architecture, depending on the use case, depending on the devices, depending on the deployer, right? And what we will release, we will start from releasing one of these architectures as soon as possible. But until then, we are going to release like a preview for developers to start working on this. So to complete like this simple update about WebStream, I want to say that we will release some documentation that's developer oriented in terms of architecture. So we want to explain how we think of building this WebStream layer, what are the roles, what are the entities, and what are the different possible architectures to address the different IoT use cases, which is important to get a context, right, before getting into actual designing and development. We will also release some like patterns, how to onboard Web 2 applications, Web 2 IoT designs into this architecture. And then we will have these like preview WebStream for developers to start playing around with creating MachineFi designs, right? Are there any questions maybe we want to answer, or?
Yeah, so I mean, three questions have come in. We can bring them forward or we can wait for the Q&A. There was one that came in from Jeremy regarding something you said a little earlier. Want to take some of these?
Yeah, let's see some questions.
All right. So the first one is from Jeremy, and he's asking, or I'll just read the whole question here. Hi, I had a question about something Simone mentioned earlier regarding the smart contract monitoring system using WebSockets. What is the rate of analysis of this monitoring system? And is it possible, for instance, if the number of transactions reaches the limit of the blockchain for the number of transactions in a block, I think it's something like 32,000 or something around that number. I mean, is it possible that the monitor will miss a transaction in that case?
Well, let's say that this is not related to, I mean, it's partly related to the IoTeX full node, but this is kind of a Web3.js feature where the library takes care of polling the blockchain node about what's going on. So I've tested it. I mean, any Web3.js, any Web3 developer can tell that this is instant. Usually where I've tried to send like a transaction that generates a log, an event into the smart contract, and I have a polling, like not a polling, I have a subscribe simple example code that will just log the event that has been detected, and I can tell it's basically instant. And this is thanks to the WebSocket protocol underlying the connection between Web3.js and the gateway. I don't think, first of all, in terms of number of transactions in a block, this depends on how much gas actually is used. So there is not an exact number of transactions that we can tell without making assumptions on how much gas they use. So the limitation is on the gas used for a block, not the number of transactions. I don't think whatever like the speed of the blockchain is in terms of number of transactions, it is still always being much slower than what WebSocket can manage in terms of notifications, honestly. I'm not an expert here, but I think that there are no issues here in terms of possible notifications, unless you subscribe to all these transactions in the block. And then you have to receive like 10,000 transactions in 1 second.
Yeah.
Usually you subscribe to a few events into a specific smart contract or several smart contracts, and then those are the only notifications that you get.
Yeah, so Jeremy comments here. He says it's a theoretical number, 32,000 transactions. A monitoring system would have to analyze within 8 seconds. So I hope that answers your question there, Jeremy. We will, of course, if you need it, can come back to it. So I do have another question here regarding the Pebble Tracker. Do you want to take that now, or do you want to wait for the Q&A section at the end?
Yeah, let's go ahead with the last maybe update,
Okay.
which is my favorite one. And it's about this developer portal project. So you may know that we at IoTeX have a documentation portal, which basically includes like for every Ethereum compatible blockchain, right? We describe how you can build Web3 applications with IoTeX, considering that it's a Web3 and Ethereum compatible blockchain. But of course, it's not that we are like cloning Ethereum documentation, right, on the portal. But because IoTeX is like pushing this MachineFi concept, we still feel like we have to explain developers what type of smart contracts, what type of applications are they can build on IoTeX that are more MachineFi oriented, right? And so it's not much about the reference documentation here, but more about project, how to build a project, more about guides and tutorials around MachineFi. So we feel like it's time to have a real developers portal as a tool, like as a one-stop shop for every developer that's interested in IoTeX, in MachineFi, and in IoT, to get there and learn about these concepts, where the layer one, where the blockchain is an Ethereum compatible blockchain that's much faster than Ethereum, much cheaper, and very secure and very like flexible and reliable, but still that's like kind of normal layer one development, right? The developer portal is addressing this new MachineFi economy. So the cool thing about what you are going to find in this portal are like some basic tutorials, of course, about maybe Solidity, deploying a token, things like that, of course, but you will get some quick starts that are more IoTeX oriented, like more how to get started with a MachineFi architecture, for example, or even just as simple project as how to directly use a device as a client of the blockchain, so as a wallet, if you want, right? Being able to send transactions to a smart contract, so to directly interact with the smart contract with the other devices in a machine-to-machine type of communication, where the blockchain is the orchestrator with trusted logic, while MachineFi explains how to like monetize data and build finance on top of data. That's different, right? And but the cool thing here is that we want to allow everybody to contribute. We want this portal to be your portal, not our portal. So where any developer who joins, who just sign in the portal, will be able to contribute their content. That will, of course, go through some approval and quality check, of course. And when it's published, actually, any visitor of the website, not only users, will be able to actually send like donations or tips to content contributed by other developers, trying to make it more engaging, also giving an option and like the opportunity to community members, non-developers, to be part of the developer community by contributing to those content that they think is more beneficial, right, for the IoTeX ecosystem in terms of education, in terms of project demonstrations and things like that. There will also be a developers blog where you can like check maybe the most interesting guides that have been published, that viewed at a more high level, or the latest news about releases of the blockchain for developers. Or maybe we want also to host also in the blog, to make it like a guest blog, where if there is anybody in the community who is maybe especially expert into some IoT concepts or technology or blockchain technology, and they want to contribute to the blog, they can have their presence on the blog, as well as ecosystem projects that want to share their journey while building on IoTeX. They can be hosted on this blog. So we want to make it really a community place for developers. There are many other ideas here, but yeah, I will keep them maybe for the next updates, where we can go through the actual portal and see how it works. Many cool ideas. And of course, we also want to hear from you what you want to see in this portal, right? How we can make it like a better tool for a developer everyday work.
I think that this is amazing, Simone. Just to let you know, it kind of feels like a mix. I mean, first of all, talk about monetizing your data, right? I mean, like you're building stuff and you have literally now have the ability to monetize this. But I've always looked at kind of things like this as a win-win-win cycle, right? Because you know, you're building something most likely because you just need to build it anyways. You're doing it because you need something, and so you build it. But now, hey, let's provide it to the IoTeX community and let's see what they think about it. So then boom, now I can allow someone else in the community to get a win because maybe they need it and I built it and they can use it. And then, hey, maybe they find something interesting that they liked about it and they can comment and pay you or tip you for the efforts you've done. And so then you can win again. And so like everyone just kind of wins with this kind of stuff. That being
said, and there is actually more than that, because we want to work on developers profiles a lot to allow these like users to somehow market their skills on the web portal, make it like a place to join together ecosystem projects and developers, to let them know each other, right? And maybe work together on projects, or even hire developers if this is the case. And actually there is much more than that that has been planned, but definitely we want to show this to the community and collect community feedback, because I'm sure there will be a lot of cool ideas from the developers here.
Yes, very exciting. Moving forward, do you have kind of maybe an ETA you could provide us with? You know, maybe when we'll start seeing the first versions of this portal come live?
I would say very, very soon. I would say in terms of days, maybe, or week, 1 or 2 weeks, maybe.
Oh, that's very soon.
Yeah, right, that's cool. Very soon.
Very nice. All right. Excellent. So yeah, please, let's keep going.
Yeah, so basically that's more or less some of the main topics you will find in the first release, like how to program popular devices like Raspberry Pi, Arduino, or the Pebble Tracker itself to be a Web3 device, and to do some experiments with verifiable data, and how to onboard this data into a, let's say, it's not a web stream release, but it's kind of a boilerplate that helps you like onboard this data and generate some proofs for smart contracts to then run some token economics on this data, as well as, this like tutorials about smart contracts and guides that are MachineFi oriented. So of course, we feel like this MachineFi is a very new concept, and more than any other blockchain concept needs tutorial and education and learning material. It's also very much hardware oriented and real world oriented. So it's important to show examples here and to like support new ideas. We have to like do the first step and show what developers can build, and then open the doors for everyone to contribute what they've built. Yeah, I would say that's all for this very short developers updates. Happy to hear any feedback, and also regarding these live events, right? What you would like me to discuss in these events, if you like the format or if you have any ideas or suggestions, we are also open on this side.
Absolutely, yes. And my guess is that most of the people who are attending right now are from the Discord server, because we, as far as I know, we did not promote it anywhere else. Though moving forward, we most likely will start sharing this on the IoTeX Twitter channel, as well as possibly in the Telegram as well. I'd like to remind everyone, this is a developer-focused webinar. Some of the questions that popped up in the Q&A, Simone, we can bring them up if you'd like. They aren't necessarily, I want to say, developer focused. You know, some are regarding the consensus net Navy contract, regarding the phase out of the ERC20 token, converting to native, and then the complete migration of the IoTeX ERC20 token. So I don't know if you'd like to answer questions like that right now.
Well, this is a quick answer actually regarding the Coinbase ERC20 token. It's not developer oriented, but we said this many times. Unfortunately, it's not under our control. It's Coinbase decision what to list, when to migrate, if to migrate. So yeah, we can only provide all the support on the technical side to support this migration. That's what we have been always available to do. I think just we have to wait the time, so the time when Coinbase is ready to do this migration. Unfortunately, as I said, it's not under our control in any way.
Okay. Yep. So that answers basically two of the questions here. So I'll put answered live, and hopefully that settles it for you there, anonymous attendee and Ray. Did you have anything else to say? I'm sorry, it seems like you may have had one more thing you wanted to say, because there's one more question about the Navy contract and consensus net, if you'd like me to read that one.
I don't have updates on that one, but we will take note of this request, and maybe we can give some updates in the next event for sure.
Excellent. All right. So Ray, if you'd like to stop by in 2 weeks, we do this every other week. So not next week, the week after. Simone has taken note. Maybe we can bring you some updates in that next call. And so then the last question here is regarding the Pebble Tracker. And if we do have a few more minutes, I would like to cover some of the questions that we got during our office hours in this recorded call. But this one right here is, will the Pebble Tracker be produced for retail users and the general public? You know, seeing as though the Pebble Tracker seems more of a developer device, will it become a consumer device? I'm guessing that's kind of the question.
Pebble Tracker is designed to be, it was initially designed to be a developer device. Actually, if you can still find some old profile images of Pebble Tracker where it was just a board, a naked board. Actually then eventually turned into a retail product. So it is already intended to be for the general public, but it has to be programmed anyway. I mean, the like factory device that you buy as a default firmware that has been installed by IoTeX, and it basically does not do anything, does not do much than just send some data to our server for testing purposes. But it has to be programmed by ecosystem projects that want to use it. The difference between using a Pebble Tracker and like any other device like an Arduino is that Pebble Tracker is a finished product, but it requires to be programmed. So it's a finished product for like a team, like, or a company that wants to use it without having to design a product if it fits their application. So once a company or a team or a developer programs the Pebble Tracker for their application, then it's like already a finished product, ready for anybody to use it. So you already have in your hands a finished product, and you will be able to download a firmware from the MachineFi portal And once you download the firmware, it just will change the purpose depending on the firmware that you download. But in itself, it's somehow not only for developers, just it's a programmable product, right? Like a smartphone, let's say like a smartphone, right? You have developers that build apps for your smartphone, but itself, it's a finished product. Same for Pebble Tracker. There will be developers that build MachineFi applications. These applications are made of a firmware part on the Pebble Tracker, a WebStream node to collect data and generate proofs of things that happen, and then smart contracts that manage the rewards and the token economy.
Yes. So now I guess this makes me want to ask a question, because you're talking about people building applications for the Pebble Tracker. So I mean, I'm guessing, is IoTeX hoping for or looking at the possibility of, you know, the average person having something like a Pebble Tracker with them? Because I mean, for instance, right, like we've kind of gone through this whole phase where it's normal for us to carry a phone around now.
Yeah.
Like we put it in our pocket, it's next to our bed when we go to sleep.
Yeah.
Now with the Pebble Tracker, we're adding another device to this, to carry, right?
Yeah.
So is this something that like IoTeX is thinking of? Is IoTeX saying, hey, you know what, we want to make it normal to carry this type of device with you everywhere, just as normal as you would put your watch on or carry your phone with you?
Yeah, let's say we wish it would be not necessary, but the problem is that devices and smartphones, we have talked about this a little bit in the previous office hours, right? Devices like smartphones are not Web3 devices. They have not, at the hardware level and also the software level, they have not been designed for blockchain. So they're not ready for blockchain till today, at least. So let's everybody hope for the future. So the reason why we had to design Pebble Tracker is to overcome some limitations, some security limitations of smartphones, because of course the smartphone is the first like choice, right? But it's not that we went crazy and decided to add the new device for people to carry around, but that was necessary to have a design that had blockchain in mind, in terms of security, in terms of identity, in terms of data, tamper-proof hardware, right? To be coupled with tamper-proof logic on blockchain. So when smartphones will be ready with this type of architecture, then we will be able to get rid of these additional devices. But these devices are required to somehow prove these concepts. And maybe in the beginning, you will have to bring them with you, take them with you together with your phone. But the vision, of course, is to have this technology embedded into these devices. And actually, IoTeX, this is the focus of the IoTeX research, because you have to research these things before they can be actually integrated into commercial products, right? And that's probably thanks to the IoTeX research, if in the future, this will be integrated into like everyday hardware, like smartphones, because we have proven that this thing works with blockchain.
Yes, and so, you know, then bigger companies can take on less risk for their shareholders.
Yeah, exactly.
When they want to integrate this kind of stuff into their phones, you know, the Samsungs and Apples of the world, they would say, oh yeah, well, look, this has already been proven to work for like the last 3 to 5 years. It's time for us to add this stuff into our devices, and then boom.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's a necessary stepping stone, basically.
Yeah, of course, it's possible to use smartphones, but for like serious applications that require like as much security as possible, Pebble Tracker today is the choice. Or I would say Pebble Tracker-like type of design is the way to go, depending on how much you want to compromise on security in terms of making sure the data you're using has been collected from the device and from the right sensor and the right device, depending on how much you want to compromise with this, then you can go with a smartphone or you can go with a Pebble Tracker like type of device.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
So, Simone, we have about 11 minutes left, and I have some questions here from the office hours. Is that okay if I bring them to you, since there are no more questions in our
for sure.
Okay. So you kind of already addressed one of the ones I have highlighted here is TrueStream and machine identity out. You pretty much covered that in the slides. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
I did not mention machine identity that much in the slides. It's worth saying that IoTeX already has decentralized identity specification that can be used for people, for companies, and also for devices. Because in this MachineFi design, every entity, every actor must have a decentralized identity to openly be able to interconnect with each other. So if you are a node operator, your node in terms of a machine, right? When your node will have a decentralized identity, you as the owner of the node, so the person will have a decentralized identity. The devices sending data to this like node will have their own decentralized identity for each device. Maybe the device manufacturer in terms of a company will have its own decentralized identity. And every one is required, for example, to authorize new firmware to be installed in a machine because it's signed by the DID of the manufacturer, right? And you need it because you have to associate ownership of the decentralized identity of a machine with the decentralized identity of the owner of the device, and so on and so forth. So this concept is already deployed on IoTeX. We have a standard specification of the DID with the DID like domain specification. We also have our IOCTL command line client that can help you generate a DID document following the standard for DIDs documents. And yeah, you can just generate a DID starting from a unique ID of a device or the address of a wallet and just generate a DID URL. And it's also supported by a popular public DID resolver service that it's publicly available. I can't remember the name, but any application can use it to resolve an IoTeX DID into the actual location of where the document has been stored. And it's typically on IPFS or any other off-chain storage. So the DID, I would say we are ready for it. We use it already. We have been using it for UCAM, for example, for years already. So it's already there. It's all the like WebStream and MachineFi architecture that needs to be completed.
Excellent. Now, I want to comb through some of these. I'm not going to ask you to answer them. I just want to let the people who are in here know the types of questions that you answer during the office hours, or at least the ones we attempt to answer. So, you know, for next week, if you all want to join our office hours, you know, we talk about things like staking and what we feel, at least speculatively and in our own perceptions, you know, what are the good places to stake your IoTeX and, you know, splitting it up properly. We talked a whole bunch about staking, and there was a nice little conversation that happened around there. Is IoTeX a commodity or a security? Again, we're not going to talk about it here, but these are kind of the fun discussions that we talk about in the office hours. Why would a DeFi protocol, or why would someone build a DeFi protocol on IoTeX instead of another chain? These are kind of some fun things we've talked about.
This one was very interesting one.
In fact, yeah, we could talk about that one right now. That one's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one actually, because you know, when you say IoTeX or any other Ethereum compatible blockchain, of course, the first question that comes to your mind is, okay, it's Ethereum compatible, so why should I use it, right? There is a Ethereum already, or even there are so many other Ethereum compatible blockchains, so why would I use IoTeX for DeFi? And I would say the answer, the quick answer here is, you should not build DeFi, you should build MachineFi on IoTeX, because MachineFi is the evolution of DeFi, when DeFi applications will get access to the value that real world assets bring, when it can be tokenized and brought to the blockchain. And then you will, if you can prove, for example, that a machine that you own is doing some work for you, and then this machine can prove the work it's doing with data, with verifiable data, and with the verifiability of the machine identity, then you can tokenize this. You can prove this to blockchain application, to DeFi protocols, and then you can use this proof into DeFi protocol, for example, to get to use it as a collateral, right? To in terms of value into a DeFi protocol, or you can just use these data proofs into marketplaces where you want to, say, sell your machine, in the entire machine, I mean, to somebody else. Then you can, if you can tokenize the data that this machine produces to prove the income that that machine is generating for you, then you can really sell the value of that machine into a blockchain, DeFi or marketplace or whatever. So the reason why I would deploy a DeFi application on IoTeX is because in the future, my application will get access to a much bigger set of use cases than just like Web3 finance.
Absolutely. Yes. So, I've talked about this a lot with my friends and acquaintances in the blockchain space. And there really is, I feel, a movement towards the connection to the physical world. And, I feel like IoTeX, the MachineFi movement, everything that IoTeX is kind of poised to do presents a lot of potential for developers, right? Because I mean, you can look at the past, like what have we been doing really with blockchain technology? It's been very, very superficial, layer one, not a lot of really interesting things going on in the blockchain space. You had kind of the first dApps starting to surface in the early days. And then after the dApps, then you had this whole DeFi movement. But now we're really talking about connecting the physical world with the blockchain space, integrating blockchain tech into hardware. And this is where I feel the world is going. It's needed. And in some cases, I mean, our most, I want to say, used networks in the world, require this immutable process for, I think, to bring trust back into the system. And when you have all this hardware out there, I feel that it's time now. It's time to bring the trust back into the system because it's being lost.
Yeah, you see it already, because you see these DeFi protocols making their way into other verticals, like into gaming, right? And so you have these these DeFi concepts embedded into games. And then it's making its way into socials, right? Where people can have like content on socials, and this content can be monetized, and so you get this SoFi or social finance, whatever type of applications, as well as you have this DeFi concept merging or joining like the cultural elements like art or music, right, being tokenized and then in NFTs and then used somehow into attaching financial to these concepts. And that's because this technology is so powerful, right? It itself is trying to enter more spaces because it's so useful, right? It's so open, and of course we have to find a way to inject DeFi into machines, into real world human activities, and so we feel like we have to build this connection, because somebody has to build it, right? There is so much need for it. So the goal is to make this connection possible, make it secure, and bring all the benefits of blockchain and decentralized finance into real world activities. Not all the activities, of course, can be like connected. We focus on, we said MachineFi, right? That's because we focus on all those activities that goes through machines, because machines are programmable. Then you can control them. Then you can build decentralized identity, authorization, data, signature. So you can program them. So you can somehow make them Web3 compatible. And that's already a huge goal, right?
Yeah. Well, Simone, I think this is a perfect place to end it. We are at the top of the hour of the webinar, so it's been 1 hour. We achieved it. We did a full hour.
We made it.
Yeah, we made it to the end.
I thought it was 45 minutes, honestly. But
oh yeah, no,
yeah,
we made it to the full hour. But thank you so much. I think that this is going to be a great webinar moving forward. And for everyone watching, just so you know, this is going to be a bi-weekly thing. So we will be bringing folks from IoTeXperts in the field, as the name of the webinar says, IoTeXperts. So there will be experts from all over IoTeX. We'll be bringing them in to showcase all sorts of cool stuff, possibly demos in the future. And Simone and I will be here hosting it with everyone else. Now, I do want to say, if there are any developers out in the community that have cool stuff that you're building on IoTeX, please feel free to reach out to Simone and myself on Discord. We'd love to have you on here as a panelist to showcase the cool stuff that you're building as well, right, Simone?
Yeah,
it should be, right?
Absolutely, that's great. Definitely great idea. Let me remind the URL of our dev Discord, which is iotex.io/dev Discord. I also hope there will be comments under this video, waiting for community ideas and waiting for you into the Discord.
Excellent. Yes. And after this is done, the recording will then be doctored just a little bit and then pushed up to YouTube. Eventually, I would like to find a way to stream directly to YouTube, and I'm working with someone at IoTeX to get that going. But for now, here we are on the webinar every other week. Simone, thanks again for your time. And thank you, everyone. I know you could have spent this hour anywhere else, but you spent it here with us. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next week for the office hours and the week after for the next webinar in this series. So take care.